it's like you can't watch any entertainment now that has any kind of interesting take on society without filtering it through today's event.
And we're alive with episode 007 of Tom&Rob Chat.
Woo!
I've been thinking, because it's a little doofy that I picked a 3-digit number with 2 leading zeros to say episode 1. Like we're gonna do 999 episodes, and we need I think that would be about 22 years worth of doing it before we need a 4th digit. I'm like, well, okay, we'd have to do 100 episodes to justify 3 digits. That would be at least 2 years worth of doing this. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Anyway, so
It could happen.
It could happen. We don't know. We actually have been doing this for a couple of years already. We just weren't recording it and posting it.
Right.
But I watched Casablanca on Friday evening. It was on Turner Classic Movies. And I must have seen this movie 24 times in my life already, including seeing it on a nice big movie theater screen. But it was like watching it fresh for the first time in a lot of ways, because suddenly you had this new resonance of living under fascism that never really crackled and felt real to me before. And suddenly, even when they go to the flashback, they're like, hey, here we are enjoying Paris, and then there's a loudspeaker, get ready, the Gestapo's coming in a couple of days, and it's like, and then them like getting ready to flee. I'm like, this all feels, and then just living in Casablanca with this authoritative threat over everything they do, and Major Strasser swanning around, and just like this never felt this real before.
They mentioned it in the movie, but it was Vichy France.
Yes.
I mean, that was the right-wing French government that was not aligned with the Nazis, but was basically winking and nodding at them.
There was a lot of winking and nodding. I mean, the Claude Rains character is always dancing on that line. It's like, technically I'm free agent here, and I'm not really working for them, but like we all know what the score is. They asked me to clear out the club, I'll clear out the club, Yeah, it felt a little freaky, and I had to remember, like, man, they didn't make that movie after the war, looking back and creating this idea. It's like the world was fighting fascism while they made that movie. It was actually happening
43.
still. Yeah, so that's just weird to remember. Like, yeah, what it took the last time fascism tried to take over the world, we really had to mobilize a lot to stop it. And, there's still everyone enabling this thing. And, the New York Times still kind of both sidesing it all the time. And I'm like, what? Can you not see it? How can you not see this? Or is it just your financial interest?
They did it when Hitler rose too. They both sides Hitler as well. And from 33 to about 38. Well, hell, even longer than that.
Yeah. But at least 5 years to do something. Yeah. And or they were just like, surely he won't actually try and kill all these people and take over the world. It's like, he's kind of telling you that's what he wants to do.
My last name is the same name as the great appeaser of 1939.
Oh yeah, poor Neville Chamberlain.
38, I should say. 38, Munich of 38, when he gave away the Sudetenland to Hitler. And I'm looking at the Munich conference here, where you have 2 American officials basically do the same kind of appeasement, because what did Hitler say about Czechoslovakia? It's a made-up country. It didn't exist before World War I. It was just created by the great powers after the World War I. And all those German people in the Sudetenland, they're being abused by those mean Czechs. Uh-huh. And we need to go in there and be able to protect. What is the difference between that and Putin saying, we we entered, one of the reasons we entered the east of Ukraine was they were picking on all those Russian speakers. They were treating them terribly and discriminating against them. And it's just like, it's the same thing. I mean, it's not even different. It's the same thing.
It's exactly.
And they're saying the same thing. Ukraine is a construction. It's not a real country. It's we're basically the unsaid subtext. We've been dominating them for hundreds of years, and we should continue to dominate them.
I mean, there was also even a moment when they said they likened it to Poland being invaded by Hitler and saying they made that happen, and Ukraine made this happen. Like they're flipping what the cause was.
Well, Hitler said Poland kept provoking us. We had to invade them
by living their lives and minding their own Polish business. I don't know.
When the secret in the von Ribbentrop Molotov agreement was that, oh yeah, we'll invade from the west, you invade from the east, you take the eastern part of Poland for you guys, and we'll take the western part of Poland. And they even picked a little river for the division of Poland between Nazi Germany and USSR. So,
do you remember what river
that was in the plans from the very beginning of their agreement, their non-aggression pact.
I was just listening to On the Media by WHYY Studios or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they're interviewing a guy who knows a lot about how to see fascism when it's happening. And he just kept almost like laughing, like, what about this thing they're doing now? What about this thing they're doing now? He's like, these are out of the textbook. What happened here? Whether you do this to the media, you do this to public opinion, you do this to this, and these to the institutions. And I'm like, what is the textbook they're reading? There must be one, because if they're following this, but I'm like, yeah, I guess there have been a lot of books written about it, and you get some obsessive guy blogging, and it's, you know, who's that guy, Yarvin, that they all think is so awesome.
Yeah, Curtis Yarvin.
But I mean, his summary of his idea, it's like, they seem kind of intellectually thin, and like would only appeal to you if you were some sort of billionaire who thought like you needed more stuff than other people do. Why can't you read it with any kind of critical thinking and like, well, you know, this guy's a little bit of a nutcase. No, I guess that faculty is not there anymore or something.
Yeah, I listened to Curtis Yarvin, and he sounds like a fascist nutcase.
To put
Which is what he is.
Simply, that's what he is. And then you have, you know, like J.D. Vance, like it's his religious text. It is. The Yarvin stuff. You see him repeat it all the time.
Regurgitate it. Yeah.
That's kind of what he was there in Germany doing. I don't.
He refused to meet with. He broke protocol. He refused to meet with Scholz, who is the PM or the Chancellor of Germany, and instead met with the leader of the AfD, the modern Nazi party in Germany. So, and then said, you guys are refusing, everybody in Germany is refusing to enter coalition with them. That's not right. And as Boris Pistorius said, you know, stop interfering in our sovereign affairs. It's none of your fucking business.
Right. They're acting like national borders don't exist, and it's also brazen. I guess they figured if we just brazen it out, we'll get pretty far. That's another tactic, I guess, that can sometimes work, especially if the newspapers kind of roll over and the television stations say, well, our bottom line's kind of at stake, and
right.
Yeah, good thing we got rid of all those regulations that protected news as a non-profit part of our enterprise here, and fairness doctrines, and if we still had those, none of this could have gotten to this point.
Right.
So there really have been a lot of plans going for a long time.
Gift of the Reagan administration. 1986.
I'm looking back even more darkly on the Reagan years than I used to, seeing what the deregulation has led to.
They set the stage for this.
They did, and it made it sort of almost it's a conservative value to deregulate everything possible, and it's like here we are, and it's still fueling them. The deregulation is a lot of what they want to do in Project 2025 and so forth.
Right, because then the richest people get to control everything.
I mean,
if there's no one looking over their shoulder and telling them what to do, it becomes an oligarchy.
Sometimes I want to say something common sense like, don't they have to eat food and breathe air like we do? It's like, well, actually, if you're a billionaire, you probably got a little special farm that makes your food for you. Especially, you have the cleanest water on Earth. And so, yeah, they don't have to worry about deregulating everything and poisoning everybody else. They don't.
Right. They don't care about anybody else.
They don't care. Clearly, they don't. Because all these policies and actions show we don't care what happens. We don't care who dies or gets sick or can't get their medicine or can't eat. We just don't care.
What they're not counting on is that if you destroy the underpinnings of a society, especially its financial underpinnings, and ours is based on, a fiat currency, which is based on promises. If you break all those promises, the currency becomes worthless. And all that money you think you have is so much paper.
Yeah. I mean,
or so much ones and zeros, I should say.
Well, now I'm thinking this is a thing. This is another thing. Let's trash the dollar and we'll all use crypto, which is absolute madness. But I think that sounds like this is kind of where they're thinking also.
Right.
Also, the whole, like, Elon is stealing all this data. It's got to be terabytes and terabytes every time they break in. That's too much to read. It's too much to process. So now he's like, well, let's get an AI to scan through it and summarize it. And then he ends up making these stupid... AI can hallucinate. AI doesn't actually know what it's doing. And he kind of wants to, like, all these people he's firing, he wants to replace lots of them with AI little bots that do things. But they, and, God help us if he's using his own AI, which is, I know he has this company, but they don't seem to have anything on the market, which means they don't know how to do it. So if he's using his in-house...
Yeah, it's only used internally. Yeah.
Probably doesn't work very well somehow. God, it's frightening. I mean, it didn't escalate in the fright value from last week to this week. It just stayed at the same scary level where it had been ramping up, and I guess they sort of plateaued. It's this bad, and it's going to stay this way until they think of some new horror to do.
Well, it seems that it's going to come to a head pretty soon, because I think the real header will be, is he going, when all these court cases get to the Supreme Court,
right? And
the other if is, if the Supreme Court rules against him, what will he do?
Yeah,
will he ignore them?
I mean, I can almost...
Because what happens if he does that? Then all bets are off. There are no rules anymore.
You could almost imagine there would be a couple of 5-4 decisions with Roberts and Coney Barrett breaking, because they've done that.
Yeah, before. maybe even Kavanaugh.
Maybe that seems unlikely, but definitely not Thomas or
not Thomas Alito or Gorsuch. They're gone.
They're gone. We don't even need to ponder.
They have made it very clear.
Very clear.
Kavanaugh sometimes comes over with Roberts and Barrett, but Barrett and Roberts are probably the best bets. You're right.
Yeah.
Barrett more than Roberts.
Yeah,
but
strangely, she started showing a little independent streak on certain issues where she's like...
Well, he fired the head of the Office of Special Counsel, which is basically a watchdog for the entire government system. He was just put in place last year, and Senate confirmed. And it says in the law that the president can only replace this guy outside of the 5-year term for three types of malfeasance. And he has to prove that malfeasance in order to remove him. Well, after this guy said, "You can't fire me," they went straight to the Supreme Court with a brief saying, "We want you to decide this. We want you to take original jurisdiction and decide this right now. Do I have this right or not?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be, nothing has gotten to the Supreme Court until Trump decided to press the issue here. And before they have said, "Oh, you can't have a person in the executive branch that the president can't fire," right?
Yeah.
And they've said that, but this is by statute. So are they going to say it was unconstitutional for Congress to put this minor little check and balance on?
Yeah. They could say that the statute is unconstitutional, not the executive action.
Right.
Right.
Because he's saying you have made other rulings where you said the president should be able to have the ability to fire anybody in the executive branch as he sees fit. And so I want to do it here, and I think that you will agree with me. So up to it. And I'm really thinking that John Roberts has to see the writing on the wall. He has to see it. If he doesn't see it, because if he allows Trump to do this, there are no checks.
Yeah, then it's not the United States of America anymore because we're outside the Constitution completely.
No, it's basically, as he's quoting Napoleon, it's basically he's a rogue emperor of a new empire, I guess.
This is why the immunity decision was so weird. It's like, especially because we know Roberts is kind of all puffed up about how fancy the Supreme Court is. And, the things, if you make these decisions, you're going to put him over you in a big way that's never going to come back again. Do you really want to do that? Well,
and they tried to play nuance in their thing. They're saying, well, we didn't say he has immunity for everything. He said some of it is presumed and it can be overcome by legal argument. But Trump doesn't see nuance. He said, "Oh, you said I'm God, Emperor, and King.
Yeah.
So I can do whatever the hell I want, and nobody can touch me in a court of law." That's what he's thinking in his head. By the way, just as an aside, I saw a picture of Emile Beauvais, the acting assistant attorney general, and I went, "Holy God, he looks just like Max Schreck from Nosferatu."
Big bald guy with
yes.
Yeah, he's kind of acting like him too. Max Schreck. I was like, what when they started making the animated Shrek movies, I'm like, that was the only other time I had heard the name Shrek, was the actor that played the vampire.
Max Schreck. Yeah.
Max Schreck. I learned that when I was a kid. I was into reading books about old monster movies, which is, I guess that makes sense. that would be something I'd be interested in.
Do you remember the Count's name in that? Was it Count Olaf Orlak?
I want to say Count Olaf, but that's...
Does that sound right?
Not
Count Olaf. I think it was Orlok.
It might be something like that. Olaf is the guy in the Lemony Snicket series of Unfortunate Events. So I know that's mixing me up.
He's also the snowman in Frozen.
He's on the Olaf. Fine tradition of people being named
Olaf. I think it's Orlok because they couldn't use Dracula.
Right.
They were gonna get sued.
It was still copyrighted.
And they got sued anyway. Yeah.
Now it's
they didn't want to pay the licensing fee.
I didn't see the recent Nosferatu movie, because I'm just not. I don't know.
I have a friend who's a big Nosferatu. He actually even runs the Nosferatu festival here in Austin every year.
Oh boy!
And it's great. He's goth, and so he runs. He runs this gothic.
If he weren't goth, I don't know what he's doing running this festival.
But he went and saw it, and he said, to me, it was a mashup of the original Max Schreck version, the remake by Werner Herzog with Klaus Kinski, and he what did he mix in a third film? Some other Dracula film, perhaps, or some other. Maybe there was another version of the German version.
Italian horror movies that.
The
Giallo or something?
The Hammer movies, you mean?
No, there's an Italian horror tradition.
Right. The Buckets of Blood tradition. What was the name of that fellow? I was going to say no. I can't remember his name. But yeah, I know you're talking. I know who you're referring to. It's
not my expertise. I just know of it because this, that, and the other. So I can't speak with any authority about any of this stuff. Horror's not my. I liked horror movies when I was 12 because I was interested in special makeup effects, taking the molds and doing the thing, and Rick Baker and what he was up to. Because I always saw it as like not that's scary. Like that's interesting. How did they build that and do that? And it could have been it is a career path. People start out being interested in that and then take it all the way. But you kind of have to be a little more goth and seriously into horror to make it your life's work. And I was just like, I'm just dabbling. I'm trying to learn, everything I can about how movies are made. And that was just another. I'm distracted.
I know a couple of people who actually got hired by Stan Winston.
Oh, cool.
And moved their way up the company until CGI pretty much killed them. There just isn't the demand that there had been.
Anything they could make.
I think maybe the original Jurassic Park was the last one where they had a lot of.
They were going in parallel. This is still good for our business until suddenly, nope. And it's all. Yeah. We can do a ping pong ball on a stick, and you don't need to build the animatronic a full size rig. And they were the best in the world. I mean, they had taken it to a real art form and a science, and had all these engineers and really smart, creative people. And then, of course, Stan died around that time too. So.
The 6 Triceratops in the original, that was animatronic, and it looked really good. It looked like that could be an animal. It looked kind of rhinoceros-like.
And it breathes, and...
You can see the belly, and it looked like the real deal. It was really well done.
Yeah.
And you can tell how thoughtful they were in building that thing. And gone.
Yeah, they were.
But anyway, I knew. What was his name? Chad Hensley. But he worked there for a while, and I got to talk to him about. He would do models like this big and this big, and scaled to whatever diorama they were working on. But really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But that's all.
I mean,
no more.
It's all these artisans and loving what they do and the creative challenge of it, just thrilled to go to work every day, and then suddenly your job doesn't exist anymore. They don't need it. They don't want it, or it's very slim pickings all of a sudden, where they used to turn away things because they were so busy. Oh boy. Okay. I'm trying to think of.
That's the march of progress.
Where's my notes? There was something I was going to talk about. I had a freaky dream. This was 3 weeks ago. Maybe it was partly prophetic, or I was reading. It was before things started getting drastically bad, because Elon hadn't really started rampaging yet. It was one of those dreams that was so vivid it felt a little more real than a normal dream does. And it started off, it was kind of cinematic too. It was like I was with a couple of friends in a restaurant having a lighthearted meal, and all of a sudden there was like a flash outside the window, and I look, and then there was a huge lightning strike, and then a meteor went crunch, and I went, uh-oh, and then I looked, and in the sky, an asteroid was like coming on a collision course with the restaurant we were sitting in, and I felt total panic in this dream. I said, God, we're in trouble. We're in serious trouble. Oh, we're in serious trouble. Run! And I started running. I ran out of the restaurant and just kept running the opposite direction. Heard this thing hit. And then eventually I turned around and you know, there were like weird guys, like, you know, the end of the world signs. And I went back to see what had happened. And this asteroid had destroyed the restaurant I was sitting in. And I'm like, this is really bad. This is worse than I thought. And I went to look, and there were a couple survivors in the wreckage. And I'm like, okay, it didn't kill everybody, but look what it did. And, you know, and then I watched the real world happen for the like 3 weeks. I'm like, yeah, I think that was kind of a dream about something terrible happening.
I think so, yeah.
It was incredibly vivid, though. And I have anxiety dreams, but actual, like, terror where I run for my life in a dream, that was new. So that's the world we're living in. I wonder if I can pull up my notes. I don't have a ton this week. Oh, we're on the 17th. Wow, how is it the 17th already? When I first noticed, hey, tell them about the dream about the lightning and the rocks falling from the sky. Hey, I forgot to ask, what was the deal with canceling Lutherans? It was one of the early things they were doing. There were several Lutheran groups got their funding.
Yeah.
Do you know what that was about? That one kind of just flew by.
Yes, the Lutherans for some time now, and especially these two groups, have been really big on refugee resettlement and immigrant support. Just like the Catholic Church is,
because they're being kind-hearted Christians and stuff.
Yeah. You know, trying to welcome the stranger, as it says in the Bible. So they Musk basically said, no more government funds for you for these resettlement efforts. And basically what that does is they have to fire everybody, because without those grants from the federal government, they cannot operate. They're 100%, well, if not 100%, damn close to it, dependent on those grants.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. And in fact, in some headlines I saw, Trump declares war on Lutherans, or declares war on Old Line Church.
Thinking of all the people to pick on, the Lake Wobegon folks.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Randomly, I accidentally, you know, because I was doing the Mystery Science 3000 live chat thing until I kind of drifted away. But I poked my head in it. But I'm like, you know, I'm good at a live chat text medium. I've been doing it since I was a teenager, and I'm just like, you know, kind of fluent in it. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. But a couple of the YouTubes I watch have had the occasional live episode where they're doing a live chat too. And I dropped in on it and started making comments and jokes and stuff, and it seemed to be going well. Like, I can do this on any channel. Like, is there any way I can do this professionally somehow? What do I do with the chatting ability? Have someone hire me to like be there to keep the conversation flowing in a chat thing?
Yeah.
And then my mom was like, well, you know, there are jobs for people training AI chatbots to make them sound better and chat better, you know. And I'm like, oh, just as I'm wondering if there's something I could do with my chat skills. And it's like, but then I'd be training a chatbot to be good enough that they don't need me to train the chatbot anymore. And I'm real skeptical about where AI is going right now. I'm feeling a moral quandary. Do I help this along?
And
or do I take a short-term like paycheck for like 6 months and then it doesn't work? It's gone.
Well, I don't think those jobs pay very well, those particular jobs. However, I was just at a birthday party of a friend of mine, David Avila, and he was telling me that they call them AI engineers, and these are people who work. I don't know all the details of it, but he said, they are paid very, very well. And these aren't the people who are writing the AI or prompting the AI, but I probably have to get back to him to exactly what it is, but he's considering going into that because he said the median income's like $200K. It's very, very lucrative, but you have to have technical skills.
Yeah.
And he didn't actually tell me what those technical skills were.
I mean, I certainly don't have a CS degree or anything like that.
Right. He doesn't either. I know that, but so I have to find out from what he meant by technical skills. But I was curious.
God, someone was reporting on. It's funny. I'm watching so many YouTubes. Like now, I'm starting to take a shortcut of scrolling through the thumbnail with fast forward, and when they put up the text of an article, then I stop and I read it myself, and then I move on to the next. And when I see it change to another bit of text, so I'm not hearing them give their own opinions, hearing them narrate the thing out loud. I'm just reading it for myself and using them as like they're curating like bits of news from the internet, so I can read it there and I don't have to actually do my own work. Trump is still selling. He's been president now for several weeks. He's still selling cheesy merchandise, and he blasts his email list. Buy this. There was one. It was like a signed card saying you are an official advisor member of my cabinet. This gets you nothing. And careful, there's only a few of them. Yeah, there's thousands and thousands of them. And a signed photo of him taking the oath at his inauguration, carefully cropping out his left hand, which is not on the Bible.
On the Bible.
It's weird to go to all the trouble of having it there and Melania holding it and then not put your hand on it when you take the oath. I'm still...
Because it wouldn't occur to him to do it.
He did it the first time. But this time, there's something, either it was deliberate or it was like a Freudian thing where his brain wouldn't let him do it. He knew he wasn't actually taking an oath that meant anything, and his hand stayed down by his side, and he didn't even think about it. It was subliminal somehow. And I noticed there was an observation I made during the first term, the Trump term, that I expected him, especially with his attitude that like this is all a TV reality show, to be constantly like sitting at the Resolute desk and being filmed from the Oval Office a lot. But he almost never was. And I thought that's weird. I mean, Obama kind of didn't do it. Don't know why not. He would always walk out into the hallway to like address the nation. But I'm like, Trump likes the trappings. Like it's a set with all the things. But now I see him in the Oval Office in footage all the time, constantly.
Yes. Because he invites the White House press corps into the Oval to see him sign some ridiculous proclamation, executive order, or decree, and then hold it up. Like I don't know why he does that. It's just like,
here's my stupid signature again.
And then they eat it up because he allows them to ask
softball questions,
8-10 questions, and he lies to them. And they don't push back, but he does it almost every day now.
Yeah, it's constant now, and that's what I expected to see the first time. And I was like, it's weird that he doesn't do that. I'm like, oh, here it is, and here it really is. He's always there, as if it's another kind of the fascist thing. The dramatic displays, the pageantry of it all.
Right.
Boy.
Very important in projecting power. So,
very important to project it, especially if you don't even really have it. Or
well, He is basically, the old will to power. He is saying, "This, I can do this, and who's going to stop me?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's, people don't get, the morons who voted for him again by saying, "Oh, well, he didn't destroy the country in his first term because there were people stopping him from destroying it. He wanted
they
to
were
do
actually
it.
constantly doing it. Clearly, all those people around him, rather than come out and tell the American people, "Oh my God, this guy is crazy."
Oh, I know.
They are all like, "Well, maybe we'll just keep him like on the track a little bit." But it's like,
That was the thing. Yeah.
but tell us, tell everybody,
That was John
come
Kelly.
run screaming
Yeah.
out of the White House, say, "Do you realize what I'm trying to hold this together with this madman?" Tell us that. That might change things.
Yeah, John Kelly didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
Mattis didn't do it.
No.
They just kind of, "Oh, I'm resigned. Bye."
Yeah. I'm gonna go write a book now. And
Anyway.
the Democratic leadership is not really living up to my hopes right now. And they still seem like, we don't know what to do. We're not in power. It's like, oh, come on. That's not... There's some people fighting, but there's some people not. And I just don't get...
Well, when you hear Hakeem Jeffries say, "Well, what do you want us to do? We're not in power.
Yeah,
we don't have any of the levers of power.
What do you want us to do? Do what Mitch McConnell does when he's not in power.
Jump up and down, call him what he is, and do it every effing day. And every time he lies, cheats, and steals, call it out. Every time.
Every time.
How hard
every
is
time.
that?
Yeah, every time.
That's not hard.
And don't vote for anything. And
right, and jam up
things by raising bushes. And they've heard that this is what people want them to do, and they're like, "We're not going to," as if they have some sort of like institutional distaste for just doing that. And I'm like, well, but it would at least slow the train down a little bit.
Right, right. Gum up the works.
Gum up the works.
Because you're not going to get it back.
No, once it's gone.
If you don't stand for it, you're not going to. First of all, who knows if he'll allow an election in a year and a half? If he gets enough power, he could call him off, and who's going to stop him? Nobody's stopping him with the illegal stuff he's doing now.
No, I forget which critic was saying this, but Hakeem Jeffries went to Silicon Valley to try and convince the other billionaires to still give money to the Democratic National. You still think
he just doesn't get it.
He just doesn't get it.
He's thinking, well, he was trained by Nancy Pelosi, and he thinks that that's the way to do it, and that's the old way. That is the dinosaur. That is the way of the dinosaur.
And you're still not seeing that this is a radical new thing, a new era, very different.
Right, you're not in a democratic situation anymore.
And why do they still think it's normal? I don't get it.
I don't know. I don't get it.
I'm seeing the same events everyone else is. And there's a lot of people who are in absolute alarm. And Hakeem Jeffries just seems to think, well, we don't want to play politics or anything. I don't know what is it.
I see you coming, dude.
Oh, man. And there's not even any movies. Oh, I forgot when I was saying a couple of weeks ago that I watched this Stephen King miniseries, The Stand. It's funny because it's entirely set in the United States. You never hear because a virus wipes out most of the population. We're left with the stragglers who are left, a few thousand people, but they divide basically into two Americas, run by two leaders. And I'm like, oh, it's like he was predicting the red into the blue states. Each saying, I'm going to follow this one, I'm going to follow this one, and then they come together and they have to fight it out at the end. He didn't know that's really what he was saying, but it's like, it looks weird to watch that now in 2025. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like you can't watch any entertainment now that has any kind of interesting take on society without filtering it through today's events.
I mean, even
it gets into everything. It infiltrates everything you see and do.
They released a new Marvel movie over the weekend, and in it, the President of the United States turns into a red Hulk and destroys the White House. Right. And I'm watching going, there's kind of a metaphor here that I wouldn't have thought ordinarily, but right now it's all I can think of. He hulks out and literally destroys the White House. It's like, okay, yeah. Oh, it's all, yeah, I need to see, I'm thinking now, like, I should try and find some kind of escapist thing to watch tonight, but I don't know what to see. I was trying to watch, I was, like, I can't just sit here and watch YouTube. Can I find an actual movie to watch? And was browsing on probably Amazon, and an old Truffaut movie called The Man Who Loved Women. Yeah, and Blake Edwards actually remade it with Burt Reynolds.
He remade it with Burt Reynolds.
And I'd seen that one when I was a kid. I'd never seen the original. But really, it's like, it's one of those things that are a little harder to watch now, because he's basically, wow, look at that pair of legs. And then he stalks her for weeks, finds out where she lives.
He's just a womanizer. He's not a man who loves women. He's a womanizer.
He's a womanizer, and he goes to pretty creepy lengths to track down women he just sees on the sidewalk. And I'm like, so I got about halfway through it. I'm like, okay. I don't know. Yeah, it's you can't just wave it off as him being very French. Also, the guy has one of those voices where it's like he smoked 80,000 million cigarettes. And all I can think of is like his breath would be so full of stale tobacco smell. I don't see how any woman would want to spend the night with this guy. But he's not particularly handsome. All the women are beautiful, and he's this kind of gargoyle going around like at different time. And that was like what, 1971 or something? I don't know. It was
yeah.
Looks like a faraway place now. Oh, there was the big Saturday Night Live 50th was last night.
And I missed that.
Yeah, it was actually, it was like, they almost did it like an Oscar show where there was a red carpet leading up to it where you see everyone arrive. And it's not just former cast members, but Spielberg was there, and Jerry Seinfeld was there, and David Letterman was there. So there's tons of celebrities all there. And they actually put on a kind of new episode with new sketches, and then did some, montages of older things. And including Tom Hanks came out and said, well, as if he's going to introduce an in memoriam section where he's very somber and the things we've lost over the years. But they pivoted and said, actually, we're going to do a montage of all the sketches we've done that look a little skeezy now because they're about sexual harassment or racist caricatures or funny accents that aren't so funny anymore. And they showed this whole montage of like very cringeworthy things that have been popular sketches for the whole time. I thought that's kind of a classy move to acknowledge that. Other than that, what else have I been doing with my time? I don't know. Just trying to survive. You try and get along and be a nice person, and then the world turns evil, and what do you do now? Now that you're a nice guy in a cruel world, what's that going to get you? I don't know. We got to at least keep the channel of communication open, because one day maybe it won't work anymore. I don't even know.
Right. Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, we really are in a limbo time of who knows. I mean, because, like, at the rate they're doing stuff, like, even 6 months from now, like, what will be left? Will we still be staggering around trying to, like, live normally, or will it... I don't know what to do. But on the theory that the rulers, what do they do? The government operates by the consent of the governed. Well, I respectfully withdraw my consent. I don't consent to this. Can we all do that at once? We don't consent to this. Maybe, I mean, it's possible the last part of the Constitution is those first three words. We the people
Be the people, right?
have to be the people, that they're the only thing left, because the courts, no. Congress, no. The people, there are 300 million of us, although a third of them, I think it's hunky-dory what's happening. Another third aren't quite sure yet. And then there's a third that are pretty sure this is awful.
Aren't participating. That's the most frustrating thing, is if you look at the eligible voters from the vote, Trump got 31% of them, Harris got 30% of them, and 36% just didn't bother.
Yeah, as if it were important, or like they're both the same, or the usual just apathy. Like, I've never voted, so why would I do it now, or something like that.
Well, I think there were a lot of people in this country who don't understand how the government works. They
really don't
why
understand.
It's important to vote. They don't get it. They think it's all a game, and it's somebody else's game, and it's not our game.
That is true.
And it's like it's frustrating. It's like the degree to which a guy complained. I saw a video of this guy. I voted for Trump, and it's the worst thing I ever did in my life, and I really, really regret it, and I shouldn't have. But all my friends were saying, you can't sit it out. You have to vote for Trump, and otherwise, the other side will win. And he said, well, I didn't want to vote at all. And I said, I wish I hadn't voted. And I went,
oh, yeah, not voted for the other, but just, I wish I had. That's what he regrets. That I should have taken a stand and not done anything. I think I came across that one also. And I'm like, oh, what are we going to do with a nation full of people like that? We're not even, I don't know. But I know...
I don't know either.
But I know there's people like you and me and all the people making these YouTube videos that care and are talking about it, and assessing our options in a rapidly darkening time. Try and keep our sense of humor up, but it's so serious, it's like hard. And I'm so sick of reading about and talking about Elon Musk, but he's the most dangerous person in the world right now, as far as I'm concerned.
He is Curtis Yarvin's CEO, who just erases stuff. So Curtis Yarvin was basically saying we need a president who's not afraid of being authoritarian, who then appoints a CEO who just goes and gets rid of stuff like a CEO, just dictatorial edicts and stuff. And Elon Musk said, yeah, I'll be that guy. And that's what we're dealing with.
I mean, there's literally
one illegality after another.
Thousands and thousands of government web pages just disappearing and being 404.
Yeah.
Which means, I guess they early on were in whatever I don't know how the government puts up websites, but they're in there and they have admin access, and they're just pulling shit down. They're probably even typing delete. And they're just deleting it without knowing what it is.
Well, I was wondering when he said during the campaign, we should just delete this and delete that, and I went,
delete?
Why is he using that as a metaphor? Well,
there's no metaphor.
I don't think it was a metaphor. He's actually trying to go in and delete whole sections of code, I guess. Deleting agencies by just saying, well, you're all fired. Yeah. And you don't have the right to do that, dude. So we'll see. We'll see what, because it's going to come to a head. I just, sooner rather than later, I hope, honestly. Because the later it goes, the harder it will be to come back.
We talked about it last time, I think. There's a guy who's been on Elon's case for years and makes little YouTube documentaries about his vaporware and his rockets not coming out, and his little sports car version of a Tesla that they would need a battery bigger than the car itself in order to. He posted a new thing. I think his name is Thunderfoot, with zeros for O's and the word foot.
Yeah, you sent me a thing, and I loved it. It was like, he just pointed out how this guy just lies.
He lies, and it reminds
Especially
me.
about
And there's a way
SpaceX.
he lied. And, he clearly got the way Steve Jobs would roll out new products with a big fancy show, and he stands on the stage and dramatic demos. But then Steve Jobs would always say, "And here it is, and it's on sale in 2 weeks." Elon does that without having the actual product finished. Steve Jobs
Right.
would wait
We
4.5
we
quiet
feel
years of
like
development, and then it'd be
we'll have
ready.
this done in right. We feel like we'll be able to achieve orbit within the year.
But
We feel like.
so I'm watching, video after video of how Elon talks when he's doing these vaporware things. He has this very serious voice, and he says things like, "These numbers sound crazy, but they're real, and we're going to do this." And I was like, this is exactly how he sounded when he was in the Oval Office with his kid. This is his tone. It's his presentation tone, where everything he's saying is horseshit, but he's doing it in this very mannered way. He seems like he's very intellectual. By the way, I'm the smartest person in the world, and I'm just telling you the facts. That's when he's lying. He's always lying. In fact, he's always lying a lot, kind of like Trump does. Which is, there's two of them. How these two should not have gotten together. Oh, that's like in Ghostbusters. Don't let the keymaster and the gatekeeper get together. That's bad. That's when Gozer comes.
Yep.
Well, here we are. Gozer's coming. Choose the form of your destruction. And it's a marshmallow man. Okay.
Stay puffed.
Stay puffed.
Marshmallow man.
Puffed up. Oh, brother. Yeah.
Where art thou?
I wish we could just remember when we used to just talk about movies for a couple hours at a time.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun.
Can we go back to that?
Can we go back to that?
Oh, I will say this. I forgot I had a subscription going right now with Max, and the announcement for the third season of White Lotus.
Oh, White Lotus, right.
And I went, oh, I forgot to watch the second season of White Lotus. So we caught the first 2 episodes of that.
Okay.
And I'll have to say this, Mike White, I've always enjoyed his stuff, but his early stuff showed promise, but had a lot of, had a lot of rough edges.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff is written masterfully.
Written and directed and prolifically, cranking out every episode, written by him, directed by him. That's
directed by him, yeah, and it's like he totally gets the metaphor of the luxury vacation, as the rich people aren't like us. That old saying, rich people aren't like the rest of us. But it starts the same way, because remember in the first season. In the first episode, you see a person feeling really bad. They're sitting it's the dude sitting in the airport, and he sees a casket coming up to his plane, and you go, oh, okay, something happened. Someone died at this resort. Well, this time it's a young woman saying, to people who just got there, oh, you're going to love it. It was the best week of my life, yada, yada. I'm going to take one last swim before I've got to go. And she swims out, and there's a floating, drowned body that she runs into. So both of them start with a body, and then within a few minutes, that we're going to work up to that. And then it goes back and says, 1 week ago.
Yes.
And then the thing goes ahead and play. And I told Virginia, I said, he's writing it not really like a murder mystery, but kind of like a tragedy mystery.
Yeah.
Something bad's going to happen.
Yes.
And he introduces you to and they come by boat, just like they did in the first episode. The first season. And you have to, one of those people, at least one of those are going to die. Now he said something different this time that he didn't say. The drowned person wasn't the only dead person. Oh, many other guests. Rocco says to Valentina, the head of the hotel, and she goes, "What are you talking about, Rocco? How many of our guests are dead?" And he never answered it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, so it could be more than one of these people could be the floating body there. And then, just like in an Agatha Christie, he shows you, oh, it could be that. Oh,
it could be that.
Oh, maybe it's.
Let's see what these.
And so you don't know exactly, and he makes you think that it could be one person, but if you think that in the second episode, you're wrong. Just like if you think you know who the killer is in an Agatha Christie in the first act, you're incorrect.
Now, I've watched both of these seasons. I don't want to say anything because you haven't finished watching the second season. But you're almost making me think, it's been a while since I watched the first season. I only watched it that one time. I could almost enjoy it again at this point with enough time and distance. Because I remember, this is the one where the guy and the suddenly remembering little bits of what happens. The hotel, the manager, he seems very obsequious and guest friendly, and then he ends up taking a dump in the. It's like, oh yeah, all that happened.
He just totally self-destructs.
Totally self-destructs. Yeah. I'm like, that might be fun to watch again. Enjoy watching that second season because I remember it continuing to be good all the way through the last episode, and a good reminder to watch the third season now. I really admire it as a feat of writer, director, creator on a mid-career absolute hot streak, where the thing he was doing happened to be what the audience wanted to watch all at the same time, so they keep wanting more of it. So he keeps getting into more of it
because he was only going to do the one.
Yeah,
and it was a limited series, and they said, "Can you do another one?" I said, "Well, I guess so. There could be white lotuses all over the world." Right. So, okay.
I'll just think of some more characters and think through my whole metaphor a little more deeply. Can play around with it from different angles if I do. I'm jealous of having that. And of course, I've got free reign to write whatever I want if I just sat down and did it. This is the main theme of our chats for the last 3 years. All right, I'll check in with you later. All right, thanks.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.